there. Hello everybody, and welcome to the annual LexisNexis event here in Canberra. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us today. My name's Simon Wilkins, I'm the General Manager for LexisNexis Australia, and I'm going to be the facilitator today of our panel and group discussion, which is on the subject of human versus cloud, computing the people factor of legal services. This is the third year in a row that we've ran this kind of style of event, and it's really what we aim to do is just facilitate discussion in the legal community. The first year we did this a couple of years ago, we looked at innovation inertia and the risk appetite for innovation in the legal landscape. Last year, this led to a discussion on smart law, which looks directly at the impact of technology on the practice of law, which has led really to this natural progression of focusing on people this year and how the profession is being impacted from that perspective. I'm joined by four panelists, so I'd just like to take a moment to introduce the panelists if I can. The first panelist here, closest to me here, is Alisa Taylor, who is a partner at Meyer Vandenberg Lawyers with over 10 years experience in litigation and dispute resolution. At Meyer Vandenberg, Alisa oversees the employment team with a focus on issues prevalent in the construction industry, such as industrial relations and occupational health and safety. Alisa also lectures construction law at the University of Canberra and regularly provides construction law training to members of the Master Builders Association and the Housing Industry Association. And her team were also finalists in the LexisNexis 2016 Legal Innovation Index, where Meyer Vandenberg was recognized for their free iOS app called Right of Entry that was developed in response to client needs for easy access to answers that would help run trouble-free construction projects. Thanks, Alisa. Next to Alisa is Scott Chamberlain. Scott is a legal entrepreneur and a senior lecturer at ANU. He lectures in the Masters of Legal Practice program delivered by the ANU Legal Workshop, part of the ANU College of Law. Scott teaches a course on strategic negotiation skills, a course on the future of law that explores the technology trends driving change in the legal profession and delivery of justice, and as of last year, a new course on legal entrepreneurism that looks to rethink the way law is practiced and legal services are provided as a whole. Scott is also the founder of Wellspring Legal, a new law firm aimed at delivering a justice dividend by revitalizing legal practice for the benefit of clients and society. Welcome, Scott. Next to Scott is Vanessa Smith. Vanessa is a partner at Davis Faulkner Lawyers and is also co-founder and partner at LawyerBank, a company that provides legal talent on a freelance model basis to in-house teams. Vanessa works in both private practice and the Australian government and currently consults to a wide range of Commonwealth agencies. Prior to establishing LawyerBank through Davis Faulkner, Vanessa was a principal legal officer at the Department of the Environment, where she developed the department's legal practice from a small team of 4 lawyers to a legal branch comprising almost 40 lawyers. She was also a senior associate at Minter Ellison Lawyers, specializing in commercial, IP, and environmental law. Welcome, Vanessa. And last but by no means least is Jane Bates. Jane is a senior corporate counsel at Optus. She specializes in major government ICT procurements and is recognized for her ability to partner with stakeholders to implement pragmatic and commercially sound legal solutions. Jane is a previous board member and ACT Division President of the Association of Corporate Counsel Australia, and she's an award-winning in-house lawyer with experience in the defence, aviation and technology sectors, and was named In-House Lawyer of the Year at the Lawyers Weekly Australian Law Awards in 2015. Jane is also a director of Quinziam Holdings, where she's an active early-stage angel investor and advisor to a number of startup companies internationally. Please welcome our panel. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do today and really the reason for being here. I think whether you're an in-house counsel or whether you're a legal practitioner at a firm or a practice manager or even a LexisNexis staff member, and there's a couple of those around, I think we're all facing challenges that come with the evolving expectations of legal service delivery today. We live in an era where technology is shaking up traditional roles, disrupting business models, and propagating what we could call an always-on mindset, and the legal profession is right at the vanguard of these changes. Technology continues to create new opportunities for business growth, and access to the legal system that did not exist before, making it a truly exciting time to be a legal professional. A study that we ran last year on legal and regulatory technology found that 1 in 5 services firms had allocated more than 40% of their IT budgets to workflow efficiency and productivity technology. Another key theme that transpired from the survey is the growing trend towards mobility, driven by mobile device ownership, and how that's made the daily commute an extension of the office. A quarter of respondents said that that daily commute time is used to conduct work-related activities such as reading emails and managing calendars. And technology has also impacted the face of the legal landscape by providing new avenues of flexibility and mobility, but it's also added a sense of constant connectedness that adds to the mental health concerns of maybe an already ailing profession. Our survey this year is going to focus on the Australian legal profession, and results will be released in conjunction with the event series as we complete that. And so we've invited everybody here today to really put people at the core of the discussion and explore how the pressure to embrace technology has impacted practice, purpose and passion of the legal professional. I think we've got some fairly thought-provoking stuff to have a look at, and we've got a panel of leading experts and innovators from the legal and business sectors. So let's get going. What we're going to do is we're going to have live polling as the discussion goes. So if you don't mind, we'd love to invite you to participate in this. So if you could grab your mobile devices, and simply all you need to do is enter the web address through a web browser on screen now, which is polllev.com/LexisNexis. So I'll just give you a few seconds to do that. Unless you can. And when you get there, you don't need to log in. Simply respond to the question on your phone.
Awesome.
Does it work?
Yes.
Keep technology working off the bat.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And so what we'll do as we go through the next hour or so is we will have a couple of questions that we'll live poll on. We won't live poll on every question, but we will do that. There's also, I think, a Wi-Fi code if you need it. Yes.
Yes.
TLS. Yeah, if you've got any problems with connecting, just give us a yell. The LexisNexis staff are ready to pounce.
That's awesome.
All right, good stuff. Okay, so what we'll be doing is we'll just be live polling, asking questions as we go. By all means, you can ask questions from the floor. So if you have something you'd like to pick up on, just raise your hand or shout out, and we will obviously take that question. And if you're into social media as we go, by all means, you can use Twitter and engage or follow the conversation using the hashtag HVC17, which we'll just see there at the bottom corner of the slide. And just finally, on my job today is just to be like an airline pilot, right? So I just need to make this as an enjoyable journey as possible and make sure we land the baby on time and everybody's happy. All right, so let's start off with a pretty general question. Alisa, I'd like to just start with you on this question. So what attracted you to a career of law in the first place, and what do you find fulfilling in your career?
Probably like most people that go into a law degree straight from school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and law was something I got into and therefore did. Came out the other end of it. I did a combined commerce law degree, which is the epitome of the two professional degrees that would get you a job at the end of it. And at the end of that, I actually thought that I really liked working in law. I worked as a clerk for my whole degree, in my holidays, during work weeks. And at the end of it, I decided that I actually really liked the environment of advising clients, and particularly the litigation environment of problem solving and trying to resolve disputes. And so I didn't get attracted to law in my head first. I got attracted to law because I was working in it, and I decided that I really wanted to stay in it. But it's a helping mentality, it's the flexibility of being able to do lots of different things. Is always interesting, there's always a new problem that comes across your desk, and the ability to have a long and fulfilling career path out of it.
Jane, same question for you. And when you started your degree, or when you started your journey here, did you envisage that you would end up in an in-house counsel role?
I would say no. I came to the law a little bit later. I didn't excel at school and didn't get into any university that would have law. And so I went and did a psychology degree first, and then after a number of years of persistence managed to convince the dean to let me into the law school. But at the time, you know, I was really heavily influenced by, we're all familiar with the really 90s television shows showcasing what lawyers did, and to me, you know, I wanted to help save the world one case at a time. It was very idealistic and perhaps a little naive. It probably wasn't until, you know, a number of years into uni that I actually realised that in-house counsel was actually a career path. You know, I always had visions of being in court, etc. I really enjoy being in-house. I spent my entire career in-house. What I found is it really appeals, frankly, to my anally retentive nature. I write contracts for a living, and I'm, you know, a real gun at spotting a typo from 10 paces. So, you know, it fits quite well with, you know, my strengths, with the benefit of hindsight, but it's not what I thought I would be doing my career.
And Scott, what do you think motivates students nowadays to join a kind of path into law?
I actually don't think the students know the answer to that question. And it's a debate that's going on at the moment within the university about how many of what percentage of the students are doing law just to do law. It's the new turbocharged arts degree versus those. And we have academics who like it that way. The university environment is full of people who've never practiced, and they don't want to have to teach people to practice. So the reason you're getting a bunch of lawyers out of university who don't know what to do is because the lecturers are really quite insistent that they not teach people what to do. That's your job. Your job is to pump out potential legal academics. So there are some people who are interested in intellectual pursuit of law, the intellectual difficulty of the law. And then there's another student cohort who do want to go into practice, but universally they're not certain what that means. They think it might mean a dark suit, a glossy office in a tall building, and then some of them discover other options, you know, in terms of not-for-profits and industry associations and that sort of stuff. And some of them use their law degree as social justice warriors. So it's quite diverse. It's not, you know, most of them would be inspired by the sense of community service they would have seen the TV shows. And they think law is a lot like that. They're quite depressed when they get out into practice and find themselves photocopying and sorting documents that they all have.
All right, so I mean, we can see from the variety of roles that we have on the panel here that, you know, maybe, you know, that legal career trajectory is not quite as linear as maybe it's been seen to be in the past. So with that...
Sorry, I would say the thing I found most satisfying about my legal career was not the law part. It was the extra bit you got from being a lawyer. It was the involvement in your community. It was being a part of things. It was that sense of agency, of knowing what was going on and helping make things happen. People seeking your advice, being invited onto boards and community involvement. That was the it was that side effect of being a lawyer, which I always found the most enjoyable.
I think we're going to explore a little bit of that a little later on, Scott, so be keen to hear you expand upon that. What we're going to do right now is we're just going to try a live poll question. There it is, which is, you know, just thinking about what we would see as the best indicator for a successful legal career. And again, hopefully, as you make your choice, it should instantly render on screen.
So, Simon, I've got a quick question. I'm probably going to be the annoying person at the panel event, but already we're sort of being, you know, sort of shuffled into boxes. Like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 options we can choose, but we all know that possibilities and opinions are endless. So how do you want the audience to participate in today's event, aside from fitting into a box?
In the most organic way that we can, right? right? So we are a small gathering, which is great, which means that if you have an observation to make, I'd love to hear it. Again, I'm sure the panel could also value that as well, and will comment and contribute on that basis. What we want to do in the live polling is just kind of give a sense of some landmarks in the conversation, but it doesn't. What we have here is not definitive. We're certainly not going to say what we have here is something that forms the basis for any research or anything really further than that. But it just will give us some indications, I think, of where a small gathering, considers these indicators as an example in this question. What we are also doing is doing the same questions around the country, and we will provide that data to everybody that attends. So we will actually just give you this information as part of when we roll up these results. And again, these questions were questions we asked within our survey as well, so we have a broader data set to play with here. But by all means, just jump in as it makes some sense. I'm more than happy that we'll run things on that basis. So Vanessa, when you think about success for yourself in your role or within your organisation, what are the kind of factors that you would see as a measure of success in a legal career?
I guess I have 3 different approaches to this one. For me, a rewarding career is one that's varied. I get really interesting subject matter. I get to do a range of things and work with a wide range of clients. So for me, variety is a spice of life, and ongoing challenges and getting and helping clients in that way every day. I think having later on in your career, it's having a rich network of colleagues and of peers and of clients that like you and also respect you and don't just fear you, that you're an appreciated member of the legal community, that you've added value. And another component of that is, I guess, the contribution that you've made to the legal profession in helping develop the junior practitioners and generosity of time and of spirit in nurturing up the next generation, and also demonstrating to them, I guess, what it is to look like a good lawyer, the sorts of lawyers that we want in our legal profession. So I think being rich and wealthy at the end of it, and having stamped upon a whole bunch of junior lawyers is there are different approaches, but I guess it's it is a very personal question as to how you want to, what you're aiming for, and then how you want to be seen and to be remembered at the end of your career, I guess.
And Jane, how about you? I mean, when you think about legal careers and how they're changing and this kind of piece, what are your thoughts?
I think a lot of it is dependent upon kind of the stage in life that you're at, because you tend to go through phases of what's important to you in the early years. You're trying to impress, you're prepared to do the long hours, and I guess as you get a little bit older, I personally care a little bit less for that, and I'm more prepared to spend my time with my husband or doing the things that I want to do, pursue other interests. I think one of the indicators for success for me is just enjoying going to work, and I guess I've been fortunate to work in some really great teams where it was fun to go to work. Vanessa and I have worked together in the same team, and we had a very big team at the time. There was probably about 15 of us at one stage, and it was a pleasure to come to work, and it was a very safe environment for asking all of the dumb questions, and there wasn't competition amongst the team, and it was just pleasant. And if you've got to spend so many hours of your life in a workplace, you need it to be pleasant, and that's a big priority.
Absolutely. And again, just looking at the screen here, annual income is 0, you can see, which is partly the case. And client retention is standing out there as a kind of key area. I know that in our survey, I think peer recognition, in the broader survey that we did, peer recognition scored highly. Attaining professional standing and positive work-life balance, I think, were our top 3. Scott, you mentioned kind of passion for law, or that sense of a broader kind of legal impact in the community as being something that is an indicator of success or something that kind of drew you to this space. Talk to me more about that with regard to a successful legal career. And do you see that changing within the profession, do you think?
So let me ask the second question first.
Sure.
The profession is up for change. But that's the impact of technology. When you get massive technology-sized businesses providing legal services, which is what you're going to see, they're not interested in recognition as an expert. They're not interested in mentoring juniors. It's speed of result and profitability and growth of the business model. And we do have a problem at the moment where, in my course, I ask students, what is a lawyer? You know, because only certain things are allowed to be done by a lawyer. So what is legal work? And they'll say legal advice, and they'll say drafting documents, and they'll say representing people in court. But in the case law, I can find examples where people giving legal advice are allowed to give legal advice and not be lawyers. I can find examples where people draft documents for a fee and not be lawyers. I can find examples where people stand up in court and represent people for a fee and not be lawyers. So all of that is collapsing. And we do need this notion of the profession and lawyers and legal practice being this one monolith is going to have to be deconstructed, because we're not all going to be junior lawyers in major law firms doing work in the traditional way, which is the usual career path. There's going to have to be many different career paths and therefore many different definitions of what a lawyer is in the future. Otherwise, the profession will either become this tiny pimple while technology businesses take over the rest of the market, or will become this really dysfunctional profession where we're learning skills at university that aren't relevant to what we learn in the workforce. Pumping graduates out who don't have a career path like what I had, like what many people had, because the assumption is that big law firms will train people to be lawyers. You get your restricted practicing certificate and are trained up to get an unrestricted practicing certificate, but these technology businesses won't have that ladder.
Simon, can I come on the back of Scott's comment? I mean, I beg to differ a little bit. I think there's still a role for the trusted advisor, and all these big technology businesses are doing is just giving us ready access to information, which is really what we're trained to absorb, read, interpret. Then the clients come to us as the trusted advisor. Look, we can do our own accounting, we can do our own designing. If you want to design your own house, you can build your own house if you want to. But people don't want to do that. They want to go to a lawyer for advice. And I think that the changes that are happening are very useful to us. I don't think it's representative of perhaps the profession going pear-shaped. I think it's actually the top part of the pear that's sharpening us up. That's how I see it. It's giving me access to information that I never had before. Quick, ready access, stuff that I can interpret and then advise a client for.
Sure, so there'll always be, and this is what I mean by you have to advise it up, there'll always be a role for the trusted advisor in certain types of work, but what we're used to doing as lawyers is offering an undifferentiated service. You go to a lawyer, and until recently, every law firm's website looked the same. We're high quality, we're high trust, high touch, right? And the fees are the same. And it didn't matter what type of work you wanted done, it was the project rate. It was 400, 500, 600 an hour, whatever it was, undifferentiated. Now you've got people placement, right? I can find high-end lawyers for $150 an hour who chew down on documents and chew down on advice. So that type of work that your practice is used to getting, when you don't have the project work, when you don't have the big fat juicy cases, when you don't have big fat juicy transactions for your people to do, all of that advisory work, it's not going to come to you. You monitor your business, you'll see it's dropping off because it's going to Hive Legal, it's going to proximity lawyers, it's going to lawyers on demand, it's going to a whole bunch of fragmented industry, fragmented market segments. They're competing with you on the business model. They're not saying, come to me because you know me and I'm fantastic. That's the traditional model. The reason why there's so many law firms is we compete on reputation. That's our competitive advantage, the people you know who love and trust you. These firms are competing on the business model. Come to us because it's the same quality lawyer but cheaper. Come to us, it's the same quality lawyer but cheaper and more efficient and more convenient. Right? How much of that business can your law firm lose before the business model breaks, right? How much utilisation can you have of your junior lawyers not doing advice work, not doing document drafting, not doing templates for clients, before all of it makes no sense, right? There's a wonderful quote, how did you go broke? Slowly at first and then very quickly. So what you're talking about is the dynamic of technology which is allowing you to do your work fantastically more efficiently. That's awesome, right? You can do more with less. But remember, the in-house counsel can do more with less and is doing so. It's not jobbing the work out. It's far cheaper now to bring another lawyer in, bolt them onto the precedent system that you've got in-house, and hey presto, all that what I call advisory work, but there's no person on the other side, it's just you doing documents for the client, you doing advice for the client. All of that in-house counsel can get done more efficiently in-house. They're now leaping over your head and going straight to counsel and briefing direct. So that thing that allows you to do more with less, your clients can now do as well. That's the first bit of technology. The second dynamic though, is where it's completely reinventing the legal service. And it's not allowing you to do things more efficiently, it's allowing your client to completely bypass you and get what they want done from an iPhone.
Scott.
Right, so I agree. There will always be a need for a trusted advisor, right? But that pyramid that used to provide, 10 junior lawyers reporting to 6, associates reporting to 3 senior associates reporting to a partner, that's collapsing.
I'm really interested in the panel's perspective on other professions where this has happened at an earlier stage, maybe as a result of a different technology. So I think the legal profession has sat in a sheltered space for quite a long time because of that big knowledge gap. So typically people come, they source an external consultant because they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the skills, or they don't have the time. There's those main drivers. However, when they're now getting, who's going to provide them with the skills? Well, we don't know how that's going to happen. Who's going to provide them with the knowledge? We've talked about that. Who's going to provide them with the time? We've talked about that. It's making it faster. But I guess my question after all of that is, has what's happened with other professions such as engineering, design, etc. in the past now being experienced in the legal profession, and is the legal profession looking externally to learn some lessons or draw some parallels or go somewhere with that? Because I think it's happened all before.
I
don't know.
So I'll answer this one first.
I know the IT industry has been doing what we do, placing consultants for decades.
Yeah.
And we're only starting to embrace it now.
Yeah.
I must admit I haven't been monitoring how that, I know that my partner is one of those people, and there are hundreds, if not thousands of them at places like Defence, because their workforce is principally comprised of those sorts of consultants. So I think it is strange that the legal profession has taken so long to sort of catch up and do the same thing. I think it's great that we are now. But I must admit I haven't been monitoring what the IT world has been doing and seeing lessons learned, and so it's a really good point you make.
Because I think, it's looking at demand. Where's that demand going to come from? What's creating it? What's generating it? And how are we responding, rather than, there's technology here that's driving a change in the way we do things. That's a sort of, a detailed issue in how we deliver. What are we delivering is the big question.
Absolutely.
To respond to what demand.
Legal Vision's business model is it provides all its precedents for free. It's all available for free. And then it provides a fixed price to customise its precedent to your transaction. It's done remotely on the web. The fixed price is around $1,200. Right, if you noticed a drop off in requests for documents, that's mine. Right, that kind of business. So that's competing on business model, right? You don't know who's doing legal. They're not saying, wonderful partner of the year has come across and is running Legal Vision. There's none of that. We're following lawyers. Here's the business model. So that's one business model. LawPath is getting in your way because LawPath is saying, clients, you think clients have got a legal problem, but before they've got a legal problem, they've got 3 other problems. They want to know, firstly, do I have one? Secondly, who should I go to in order to get it fixed? And thirdly, how much is it going to cost? LawPath solves those 3 problems, and it's worth more than every law firm in this room. Right? These new business models, because they're competing not on relationships, they're not dependent on their economic value for who's in the firm and which partner is running it, all that sort of stuff. They've got a brand, and their business model is worth 6 to 10 times profit. And so LawPath has stepped in and said, we're going to solve this problem. Here's a whole bunch of free documents. here's a list of lawyers you can go to if you've got a problem. Here's all this free resource for you to work out whether you've got a problem. And we'll go to the lawyers and get the fixed price quote from them, and then you can choose which lawyer, and we work with all of those at Counsel.
So they've defined their market quite tightly or quite narrowly.
So they're not a law firm, right? What they're saying is this is a problem with the way law is currently delivered. The justice delivery system is broken at this point, because the research showed about 87% of people, if they had a legal problem, would not seek a lawyer's advice. They would seek whoever is sitting in front of them, their doctor, their social worker, the guy down the pub, because they want it for like that $400 an hour plus the effort to go in and sit in the lawyer's office. That transaction cost is too high to solve that particular problem. And so what people are doing is differentiating. They're saying that problem is only worth $100 an hour. I'll solve it $100 an hour. Well, that problem is only worth the $30 wrap. I'll solve it with the $30 wrap. Right? So that's how they're fragmented. If you want the business model, you've got technology which jobs out people, just puts them in offices. Smart person laptop, internet connection, every bit of legal work that be done that way is going to have to end up being done at that way, at that price, which is wage plus a margin. Then you've got the construction industry, where you've got these mega firms that have project managers, people who are seriously good at winning work. That's what the big firms will end up looking like. And when they win work, they'll pile it on, like people from your firm, right? Because they'll get the bodies in to fill it up, and then when they don't have the work, they'll let the bodies go. But the core of the firm will be much like a construction company. That's my, because it's project scale work, right? The big firms like work that has, your firms, you love the work that has huge amounts of expertise, requires management expertise, and has a lot of support resources necessary to do it. Large cases, large transactions, big juicy files. It's project work. What you're relying on is all of this other work to keep your people busy when you don't have the big juicy matters. And what's going to happen is people will have to concentrate. You've got big law firms now who are saying we're going to compete with accounting firms, we're going to compete with consulting firms, and go out and win that consulting work. They want project scale advisory work because the other type of work's not coming good.
Scott, I don't know whether any other panel member has got a comment to make on this.
I'd just make a comment a bit out of left field. Earlier last week, I went to a presentation by the CEO of Roads Australia, and he was talking about the driverless car revolution. And it's quite fascinating. NRMA has just released a paper about the fact that this is all happening within the next 10 years. So it's quite a fascinating issue to get into. But at the start of his presentation, he put up a photograph of the streets of Melbourne in 1901, and there were horses everywhere. And then he puts up a photo of streets of Melbourne in 1915, and it's an entirely different landscape, and it's 15 years apart. So the point I'm trying to make here is this: change is not something that is new to us as human beings. Change happens all the time, and we cope with it. So I don't think the legal profession is going to fall off the cliff. I think it's going to be a very different profession in 10 years' time, but it's a different profession now to what it was when I first started practicing. So I don't think that we're all going to be out of jobs. I just think that the jobs we're doing are going to be different jobs.
Absolutely. The growth in the lawyers, all these new law firms are starting up on the basis that there is a gap in the market at that price under $400 an hour, at $120 an hour, at $80 an hour. There's a whole horde of people who would come and seek legal advice who would not otherwise seek it. And to some extent, they'll say that they're proven true.
But on the other side as well, that gives opportunities for pricing in a different way for the high value work. And there are firms that have done that very successfully, particularly in the US, where it's value-based billing rather than the traditional $500 an hour, $600, $1,000 an hour. So where you can tailor the price to the need, it provides opportunities to get more work at low rates and opportunities to do more work at high rates.
Absolutely. So they're moving to fixed price, and what that means is more project management expertise. So you end up, big law firms now are advertising for experienced project managers. They will be the people that will drive the firm,
yep.
Right? Because they're the ones that are providing the value the client really wants, on time, on budget, on quality. It's not being delivered by the lawyers anymore, it's being delivered by the legal project manager. So the other thing that's that's in the big, this is where the profession still matters, right? When you come down, you have to differentiate the quality type of work. what's the value add for the murder trial, right? What's value billing for murder? That's where we have real professionals. So that traditional role of the lawyer as the defender of the citizen against the state, that contribution we make to the rule of law, that contribution we make to the prevention of tyranny. What's the value billing for that? And that's the real professional conundrum. So we talk a lot about the large law firms, but at that level, we're really not that differentiated from other professional service providers, and increasingly that's where we're competing. Accountants will eventually end up with legal professional privilege for tax work. Or consultants will get into your space. There will be large multidisciplinary teams doing that type of high-end commercial work. Where there is still that kernel of pure legal work is when we're dealing with the court system, and particularly when we're dealing with the court system against the state in its capacity as prosecutor. Now, you can't innovate that. That's a really difficult space to.
Well, Scott, doesn't it only apply to the murder trial? I mean, anyone who finds himself having to go to court.
That's just the extreme example.
I know, but and it's a point well made. But translate that across to the civil arena, where a lot of our clients find themselves. That's where I find the trusted legal advisor really has a role to play, and people are prepared to pay for it.
Certainly, the difference with the civil area is that both parties have a capacity to unagree to use the court process and to use a different process. So the court system is actually susceptible to innovation in the civil space. And you will find, unless the court gets good at providing a justice service, not a place for justice, because that's what court is at the moment, it's a place. Once it becomes a service and it innovates, then it might retain that work. But Singapore, for instance, is massively innovating its court system. Why? Because it's a competitive advantage for commercial trade. And commercial disputes are all done out of Singapore. They provide guaranteed timelines and deadline, everything's short. Right? The last place you come to resolve your commercial dispute is a jurisdiction where the High Court's described the indolence of one hand washing the languor of the other. Right? So I agree that civil space is still, so if I was a lawyer starting up today, it's criminal law, it's civil law, right? That's the hardcore legal work. Everything else is really ripe for not for fragmentation, but for you'll have to compete on the business model and design a service that's appropriate for the type of work you're doing.
I suspect we're going to come back around this subject or around the subject a little bit more as we continue. I'm going to take us off in a slightly different direction, but again, what we do want to talk about is the sense of how technology is becoming pervasive in this space, indeed, in everyday life. And I think one of the things that we know is changing right now is working habits, and I talked about this idea of always on or being constantly connected. In France, we've seen legislation calling for the right to disconnect. German organisations, I'm told, have put bans in place to ensure employees aren't checking and responding to emails 24/7. As an example, I'm sure my boss has emailed me 6 times already today trying to find out what I'm up to. Just take a moment, if you don't mind, just respond here, if you'd like, to this question. Which of the following practices do we believe best stimulate work-life balance in the legal profession? And Alisa, I might come to you if it's okay.
Oh,
See you
I was
calling.
voting.
Are you okay? So, what do you think about this idea of right to disconnect? Just switching everything on.
I think if it's a right to disconnect, it's virtually worthless, because the people who are most driving the desire to stay connected are the employees. I'm certainly not telling my team, if I email you at 11 o'clock at night, I expect you to respond. Nobody in my organisation is saying that from the top down. I think I think at a base level it's an addiction to social media and to the response and to feeling like you're helpful, and if you get an email at 11 o'clock, you want to write back and say, yep, got it, we'll do it, whereas there's no point in that response at 11 o'clock at night. And secondly, I think it's about an ambitious young lawyer wanting to show that they can do the job and that they're there and that they're committed. So I think rather than a mandated, you can't require your employees to be online, we need to drive it as a profession, just in terms of looking after ourselves. Encouragement that you don't be online. One of the first things I say to my juniors when they start is, I do not want you to be looking at your email 24/7. I do not want you to be looking at your email all day from 9 to 5. I want you to be doing the work. Email is a communication system, and if I email you and you email back in 5 minutes, all I can think is, you're not doing any work in there. So I think it needs to be a cultural change rather than a legislative change.
The cultural piece is interesting. I know that, again, that often comes up, as I think it is coming up here, the supportive management culture being a driver of, this work-life balance. Vanessa, work-life balance, how do we kind of pursue that stuff, or are you seeing some interesting, innovative ideas springing from your experience?
I mean, we're the same. In terms of our lawyers, we say you do your 7.5 hours and you go. You're not expected to take clients' laptops or remote tokens or any of that sort of thing. That's our model. You log off, you come back in the next day, and then you can pick up again. For me, I personally need access later on because I have a young baby that I look after, and if I choose to look after or play with her during the day, then I might need to hop on between 8 and midnight and do my work then. So having that access is very important to me, but it's not something I'd ever mandate for anyone else. It's just a flexibility that I appreciate having, and my clients understand that they'll email me during the day, but they might not get a response till later at night on those days. So I think it really is a case-by-case basis to meet the individual's requirements, but I think definitely discouraging, people checking in constantly or requiring responses. I have colleagues that, their partners have been emailing them at all times during the weekend, expecting responses within an hour, and I don't condone those practices at all, because we do need to have those work-life balances, yeah. But and equally, I understand it can be stressful to rock up on a Monday and see 100 emails in your inbox and not be across it. So it's finding the right balance for the individual, I think.
And Jane, from a corporate perspective, from an Optus point of view, is there some interesting things going on in your organisation around work-life balance or flexible work practices?
Yeah, there certainly are. I'll make a comment that I did spend 3 years of my career working in France, where I had a 35-hour legislative working week, and despite that, that's not the reality, and I think it really does come down to management and the culture, and there are certain cultural differences in France. I would take a much longer lunch in France than I ever would in Australia, because I had a subsidised 3-course meal. The team would sit around, but it's some of those differences. They would enforce things in terms of everybody had to be out of the office at 7 o'clock. If you weren't, you were meant to have approval from the MD, or your name got logged by security and your boss got please explain. They had some things in place like that. If you weren't out of the office for at least 10 hours, when you went back to swipe back in the morning, access denied to the building. So they did have things in place like that, but the reality is with remote working, you can still be working at home. So, it is very much up to the individual to take responsibility for that, supported by a management culture that doesn't expect you to be on call 24 hours a day. At Optus, I am extremely fortunate, obviously being a telecommunications company and with a big ICT presence. We need to be able to walk the walk in terms of remote access and all those kind of things. The majority of the team works remotely at least 1 day a week. We have not so much set desks, but kind of open plan hotspots. So people have lockers rather than actually having a desk in some offices. So you're encouraged to work wherever. Essentially, the entire building and the campus in Sydney is completely Wi-Fi'd. So you just pick up your laptop and you work from everywhere, not necessarily at a desk. I am personally extremely fortunate to have a very good and supportive boss who allows me to tailor my work around my life and not vice versa. And so I tend to travel a lot. individually or with my husband, and I will just work from Melbourne or Adelaide or
Paris.
Brisbane or it was London, but yes, my husband went to work in London, and I wanted to support him, so I just worked from London for a week, and that's fine, and that's acceptable, practice, and that really needs to be strongly encouraged. I don't have, I was going to say, I don't have a legitimate reason. I don't have small children at home. I don't have care responsibilities. But for me, my life and enjoying it and doing, things that I enjoy are as important as my work to me. So I just structure things according to how it suits me. And I think everybody should be that fortunate. I appreciate that not everyone is, but I think you've got to make it work for you.
Yeah, as I say, there's consistency for me here now in terms of having run this event a few times now, that supportive management culture piece is just coming out regularly. Obviously, is the essential component in this. But I know organisations are struggling with that. I know actually our business, LexisNexis, is absolutely struggling with trying to figure this out around the whole work-life balance piece, people being in the office, leadership being visible, all of these kind of things which are very kind of traditional ways of working as we think, hopefully, in other more kind of progressive ways. Thinking about progression, we are going to talk a little bit about technology now, but I'm going to talk a little bit in some specific areas around technology. So I'm quite eager just to hear from the panel and from the audience here what we think of when we think about legal technology. So there's obviously a little bit of concern around the robots are coming, and some uncertainty in that space. I don't know whether anybody saw that iView ABC documentary, The AI Wars, that was on a week or so ago, which was kind of interesting. Just a little subtle subtext in that. Every time the artificial intelligence was shown, there was this sinister music that was playing, just to give people a sense of what the ABC thought. And it is interesting.
We all know what
it is interesting. I just picked up a survey from a company called Pega Systems, which are a customer experience business that surveyed 6,000 adults, North America, EMEA, and APAC. And they asked a whole series of questions about AI. One of the questions they asked was, do you understand AI? And 72% of the 6,000 adults said yes, they did. And then they said, another question was, what scares you the most about AI? And over 70% said that they were fearing things like, it's never going to know me as well as a human being would. The rise of robots will enslave humanity. Finding that I get on better with AI than I do with my friends and family. So you can see, not necessarily as well informed as they may have appeared to be. What we're going to do now is just have a look at a word, cloud, which hopefully is going to just appear at any second. What you just need to do is just when you think about technology and technology in the legal space, what do you think of? And you should be able to, as the words populate, you should just be able to vote for a word basically as you see that. Scott, I'm going to jump to you first whilst this just kind of happens. So when we talk about technology in this legal space, are we focusing on the right things, do you think? And is this idea of the future and robots and the fear-mongering or whatever that might go into that thinking, is that really just hype and hyperbole taking us in the wrong direction?
Possibly not.
Okay.
So it's a 500% increase in legal tech patent filings. Right, so there's a huge number of people out there with incredibly large brains working out how to apply technology to the legal space, and there's a 500% increase in patents. Now, that's a space that we're unused to as a profession, the concept that someone might own the solution to the justice system problem. Law is a perfectly competitive business. The largest law firm in Australia has a 2.7% market share. That's why we all do what we do the same way we do it, the same way everyone else does it. It's also why, when there's one innovation, everyone has to do it or lose. Right? So that's why you'll feel tech start to catch up really quickly. The largest law firms in the world are now helping Ross, which is IBM's legal specific AI. They're helping him do research. They're teaching him. They're training. The way that AI works, it needs data, it needs to be able to see patterns. It doesn't learn the same way humans learn. When we talk about a machine being intelligent, it's not intelligent the same way humans are intelligent. What it's doing is using data to look at patterns and being able to come up with an outcome that is reasonably approximate to a similarly placed human. If it does that and gets better at it, we say that it's a learning machine. So your spam filter is a learning machine. Everything from Ukraine is spam. Why don't you say, no, that's from my uncle, that's not spam. And so, new rule, everything from Ukraine except from this address is spam, and so it's learning. So the big law firms, the big international law firms are now using AI. They're teaching it to do legal research, they're teaching it to compile documents. Hence, there's no graduate job, or there's less graduate jobs coming through. Instead of the pyramid, people are looking to simply replicate partners on a one-on-one sort of relationship, smaller teams, etc. Works no more than that. Google turned off they had a negotiation AI. I don't know if you saw this in the news. They turned it off when it taught itself to lie. Because it looked at the pattern of human behaviour and said, in this situation, humans fib. Wow. So I'm going to fib. And I win. Yeah, look at me, I win.
Liar.
They also turned off, they had an alternative AI, they turned it off when it invented its own language to talk to other machines. And they didn't know what it was saying. But it was more efficient than being programmed in English, and it had rewired its English in a way that was quicker for every machine to understand what's going on. So at that level, AI is a potential risk. Where AI becomes a real risk is technology that no one talks about in these forums is blockchain. Blockchain's distributed ledger, and the quote about blockchain is blockchain makes you realise how much of civilization is just really good bookkeeping. Right? So that was the innovation. Writing began as, we're just going to keep a tally on everything. Who owns what, how much they paid, all that sort of stuff. That's what blockchain does, but in a way that's distributed register, so that no one person is the gatekeeper of the knowledge. Whereas now you go to the land titles office in order to work out who owns a block of land. Instead, the knowledge of who owns that block of land will be distributed across a wide network of nodes. And anyone can access that node. And it's as simple as saying, you can see I've got this block of land, I can see you've got $1 billion. Do you want to own my block of land? Get on an app, bang, done. Right? It's a costless way of undertaking transactions, and it removes agents.
I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but blockchain's an interesting one. I can see it's up there now, but we for the last 2 sessions we ran, blockchain was certainly where there was a lot of focus.
So people will start to combine AI with blockchain. They'll start to have risk. So what will happen is the risk you run is that the machine starts off being really useful. So it starts off as a tool, then it becomes an agent, then it's like, oh, the AI is just so much better at doing this than I am, right? Because humans have biases, humans have cognitive deficiencies, the machine doesn't. It doesn't have biases, doesn't have cognitive. So you just go, oh, you handle it. And then after the machines handle it, then the machine becomes your master, because you're no longer even competent at being able to determine whether the machine's giving you a good answer or not, because you've gone so long without having looked at it.
Isn't there a really interesting and fascinating sort of philosophical and ethical debate there about the, rightness or otherwise of actually being human? Like, you bring in the video umpire on the football game and you're going, well, hang on, there's a human element in this game which is necessary. There's a subjectivity that's necessary to enjoy the game. How so with the legal profession?
So if you get things like, so we have a lot of rules, a lot of ethical rules and a lot of procedural rules designed to remove, known human biases when it comes to evidence. Right? What a jury can see and can't see is, that's all about potential biases.
How far do you take it?
The machine doesn't have that, right? So what you'll begin with is a bunch of apps that will help you make a decision and remove your bias.
I guess what I'm asking, is that what we ought to be aiming for? At what point is it too far? Not whether or not we do it already, but at which point do we, take the humanness out of our systems? And
we're going to start to see that soon with the invent of automated cars, because in those cars, the coders are going to have to write in programs about, when faced with a mother with a pram crossing the road or a dog, which one do I get to take out? The car is going to need to be able to make automated decisions, but equally, if you drive a Mercedes, there's a lot of interesting literature around this. If you drive a brand of car that prides itself on the safety of the driver, is the car going to automatically do whatever it needs to do to preserve your life as the driver to the detriment of
whatever
with the pram? So these decisions are going to need to be made very soon. And what's interesting is that there is not a code of ethics that applies to engineers, and the legal profession is quite unique in having a system of ethics that we have to abide by that doesn't always apply to a lot of other professions who are now being entrusted almost to make these decisions for the future.
It's worse than that. You can't even tell what the code, because it's iterative in nature, it's really hard to even audit the code to know that that's what it would do in that situation. So, but what will happen with driverless cars is humans will be removed from the road. They've shown that the real problem with driverless cars is humans. Because at a stop sign we don't really stop. So the driverless car is like, it's not stopping. I'm not going to go until we're inching across. We know that you've slowed down and you're just waiting for me to go. So the area that I research at university, this is I think the most fascinating. So moving beyond technology as a tool to do legal work better. You get to a complete reinvention of how society functions, but you're doing it already, right? So what funds AI is the data. And where does the data come from? From the mobile, accessible, affordable computing in your pocket, right? All of that data is just being gobbled up and turned into knowledge and services parroted back at you. And your Facebook and your Instagram and all that, they're already hacking your brain, right? They use cognitive scientists to, their interface is designed in such a way that it's addictive. They use computer gaming and poker machine algorithms in order to gamify and make you addicted to their software. That's why it dings, that's why it's got all those notifications, that's why it does that stuff to you.
But to me, it's really, really sad that we think 150% objectivity is better than a human approach. That we say, that there, it seems to me, an assumption that is good, and this is not as good.
So Google and Facebook are now using AI algorithms to filter what news you see.
Oh, sure. We're all aware of that. We know that. And
so
I agree with Barack Obama, actually.
The machines are already determining what you see and what views you form.
For sure.
And what you like is already governing what you see. And so it's reinforcing what you like.
In principle, however, your point that it's going to be better because it's going to be more objective and it takes the bias, it removes the bias. I think I heard the word right in there, but removing the bias is right, yeah.
No,
and I think there's a fascinating debate.
Removing bias is valuable in many situations. And
some more than others, like Jane illustrated with that.
I actually think that the people who should be most worried about their jobs are the judges, because you have a computer program already that can predict based on a set of facts what the answer should be. Lawyers are still going to need to be there to work out what the facts are, because in every dispute there's always three sides to the story. The judge is the one that's redundant in this situation.
Yeah, I've heard that already.
Take personal injury, right? Yeah. Take personal injury. When there's a large enough database of cases and features and outcomes, not only judicially determined outcomes, but negotiated outcomes, you won't need the judge, because everyone will know the bell curve of likely outcomes, and it will be that narrow, and it will be professional negligence to pursue something that's outside the bell curve because the database is so rigorous and so well understood. Then the insurance companies will move not needing lawyers at all, and nor will the plaintiff, right? Because there'll be an app that tells you, you fell over in Coles, these were the circumstances, this is the likely outcome, and the insurer will have the same database. When everyone's working off the same database, right? There's no dispute, or it's a very narrow dispute. And so you're right. I agree. The judge, that whole, but that means potentially that means the justice system resources are freed up for other activities. But what it is likely to happen is that the bits that you don't need humans to do, humans won't do. And the high value bits that only humans can do become the bits that we all do. Right? And maybe it means that society's resources will be massively reallocated towards, maybe machines will mean a more human society because we'll be doing the bits that only humans can do.
I would hope so.
Well, my first 6 months of my little career, I photocopied documents and sorted them into date order for a case that settled. Right? You want a machine doing that? Well, I wanted a machine doing that at the time, and hopefully that's the future.
Vanessa, what are your thoughts on this? We haven't heard from you for a little time.
This is not my area of
Yeah,
expertise, so
I
can't
Talk
actually.
to us about technology. Talk to us about this idea of the human touch within the space. I'm really quite interested actually in terms of your role and how you're seeing lawyers' understanding of their roles kind of changing and their expectations, and even where they're thinking they need to be trained or need to be aware of things before they can add value.
Our client is largely the government, and their systems aren't keeping up with, I guess, the supplier systems is what we're finding. I mean, I spent even last week, a large part of last week, trying to negotiate with a supplier about going back to their legacy systems because our clients just couldn't accept their, embracing their modern technology and keeping up with, it wasn't going to meet their security requirements, or the security requirements, couldn't be assessed fast enough. So this is not something that's confronting our people on a day-to-day basis. Every single agency I've worked in, we're still working on a Microsoft Word folder system where we have to open up a new file in a folder. Still operating on quite, I guess, historical systems and devices, and not seeing a really fast uptake of technology. For us, I guess, the personal relationship is what gets our lawyers in the door. It's their reputation. It's people like working with them. They can get technical advice from a whole bunch of people, but they want people that can, that they have a trusted advisor relationship with, that they enjoy being around, and that they have that emotional intelligence to be able to pick up the nuances, the politics, the sensitivities, understand the context, and provide a really practical outcome. That gives the client options and it advises them on the risks, but how to manage those. And so that's where we've, I guess, really focused our business, providing those personal people that can help the clients with that. The technology issue I'm finding absolutely fascinating hearing from Scott, but it's not something that we're battling, or it's not keeping me awake at night at the moment because it's so far removed from day to day.
The bots certainly aren't coming right now.
Yeah.
And very outcome focused. I mean, what I'm hearing there is it's really about outcomes. So it's really kind of driving that piece. Jane, I'll go to you. This will be the last kind of couple of questions we'll ask, and then we'll wrap up or ask if we have any more questions from the floor. So Jane, again, from a corporate perspective, and this impact of technology and keeping the human factor at play or in play. Again, what's your comments or observations on that? Where obviously it's not just within the in-house counsel space, but we're seeing it pervasive, I would think, in all sorts of different areas.
Certainly, my observation, and this won't apply just to Optus or in-house, but across the entire profession and many professions, but we are continually being challenged to do more with less. Our budgets are shrinking, our head counts are capped. How do we continue to respond to the ever-increasing workload with those constraints? In Optus, we've turned a lot to technology to solve those issues, creating, whether it's we're implementing new systems, we have got technology partners in to work with us so that our staff can self-service their legal needs. A lot of companies do that with NDAs because, let's face it, we're all too important and too highly trained to worry about NDAs. We can let people populate their own documents, but developing technical documentation, we have a tool that guides people through a step-by-step process of reviewing marketing content so that we don't get ACCC, have in the bad books. We don't get in the bad books, but there are a bunch of things that we are implementing to put responsibility back on staff to be able to manage those legal risks themselves. One thing that Optus does that is a little bit different to a lot of other in-house teams is we actually have a team based offshore that processes a lot of work for us. We have capped headcount and we still have a lot of work to do, and nobody wants to work 24 hours a day, so we have a team based overseas that we send work to that works in a different time zone and turns around things quickly. And in the last year there's been about $340 million worth of transactions that they have managed, leaving the lawyers that are employed within Australia to deal with more strategic issues. So, I appreciate that sending work offshore is not always well received. It's a bit topical, but sometimes you've got to look at these options when you have limitations on them.
Alisa, last question for you. How do you think lawyers can operate, not automate too much, and still kind of maintain that personal touch or that connection, that outcome focus piece that Vanessa was talking to, in your observations?
Well, I don't think human touch is going away. I think clients will always want to have somebody they can talk to about their problems. Just the same way I can use the Google Doctor to work out what's wrong with me when I've got an ailment, I still need to go to a real doctor to work out if the Google Doctor that I did was right. So I get a lot of clients that ring me because they found something on the internet and they've got an idea about a solution, but they want to talk it through with somebody. And I think that's where we can really add value, and that's also actually the most rewarding part of my job, is to talk to somebody, not have to try and explain what the law is, but to talk to them about how they can interact with it and get what they want. So I don't think humans are going to drop out of the system completely.
So if I could just quickly add to that, there are a lot of things around technology and the robots coming and all of that, but the robots don't have, at least so far, the capacity for empathy, communication, understanding of the ethics and fiduciary duties that we have, the scope for creativity and dealing with new and novel things that we've not seen before. They rely entirely on learning from the past. So, at least for a while, we're still in a job. I read an interesting article recently that said that we've got 45 years until human jobs are able to be automated, or until AI outperforms humans in all tasks, and then 120 years till we're kind of redundant. So that was in a scientific journal, so whether that's fake news or not, who knows, but it's interesting. These times are coming, and for a lot of us it's something that we will see within our lifetime.
And whether we become artists and dancers and hypnotists or whatever, or if we turn into, what's that?
Fire eaters and junk.
What's that cartoon where everyone's floating around drinking Slurpees and they think
Wally.
Wally, yeah. I think the choice is up to us, whether we go one way or the other.
So my final point would be, no one's saying that there won't be a role for human touch. What I'm saying is that the undifferentiated services you're used to offering will be differentiated. There are bots out there that are really good at doing very specific bits of legal work. There's a company called Logic that lets lawyers build their own bot online, and law students from Melbourne and Sydney are being used by not-for-profits to build legal bots for their clients. So don't kid yourself that the machine can't do certain stuff. There's then a chunk of work that's really good to be done by a smart person with a laptop and an internet connection. The time will come when your clients don't ring you because you're 400, 500, 600 an hour, and they can get someone else they trust at 120, 150, 200. So those business models are out there as well. There's then the chunk of work, process type work and project type work, where yes, you need people in an office and you'll need a touch, right? You cannot get your conveyancing work done with your conveyancing team being in London and Paris and New York whenever they feel like it, right? It works for certain types of work, but there's a type of work for which that doesn't work, and you need a team. It's very hard to do litigation with your team remotely placed. Right? There's physical bits of paper to be handed around, right? So you need an office. I think the law firm in the future will have a do-it-yourself option. They'll have a bunch of apps like your IOS app for right of entry, right? That's the right level to deal with that particular problem. So you'll have a bunch of apps, do it yourself. You can't do it yourself, we'll hold your hand. And that means ring somebody. A smart lawyer with a laptop and internet connection will quarterback you through the process. And if that's not enough, then we've got this really efficient fixed price process, or we've got this really wonderful project team that will handle the work and do it all for you, but it'll be tiered approach. That's what I'm advocating, and I think that space of the do-it-yourself is where the machines will simply be really good, and you really value them, and your clients will really value them, and you want to own those machines, you want to own those services, otherwise your clients will go somewhere else and form a relationship.
Thanks, Scott. I promised I would land this thing on time. The landing gear is officially down. We may have time for one question from the floor. I know we've had a lot of interaction as the conference is brilliant. Has anybody got a question for the panel today? We'd love to hear any of our panelists respond to. All right. Well, thank you so much. I know that we try to keep people at the centre of the conversation. I think we did that. Also, it's clear for me that there's lots of interesting things happening in legal services, and a lot of adaptation and ideas and energy is going into that right now. I'd like to just have everybody thank the panellists, Jane, Vanessa, Scott, and Alisa. Thank you for your time and for your thoughts. We also have a little gift. If you're interested in CPD, the CPD certificate will be on its way to you. Just email us and we can get that out to you. Also, the survey results, as your attendees, you will have all of those. And please stay with us. We've got a little bit of time now for wine and networking and all the human things that we want to do. So, thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I used to be the annoying one at the front, but I figured I could leave more if I sat behind you. Oh, well, you know, I shut up at the end there. I have many more things I can do.
No. Look, let's just sort of check as it goes. A couple of hours. Scott knows.
You know what, that's
I probably want to from an always.